All right. So another episode of Adding Perspective with Josh. I'm Josh.
I'm Coach Nrgy.
Aphrodite.
And I'm Emmanuel.
All right. So this week we're going to talk about self-love. Everybody's favorite topic. Woohoo!
Interesting.
Self-love. Yeah, everybody get themselves a hug right quick. Yeah. So self-love, I think, is one of those things that's been kind of going around, especially here lately. I've been hearing a lot of people talk about self-love and self-care and really trying to take care of yourself. And typically when the New Year's roll over, everybody's about that, right? Everybody's about their life, like taking care of yourself, living a healthier life, whatever that kind of goes with. And, subsequently on down the year, people just kind of fall off with that whole thing. I guess it's the New Year's resolution thing just kind of stops being more relevant at that point. Like, hey, forget this. Let me just get back to what I was doing. But self-love in general is, to me, super important because as people grow older, as individuals grow older, it's okay to really just tap in with yourself and find out how you're changing. Right? Like the things that you're going through, the things that shape you in life, the different situations, and then who you become after those situations. I think most times people don't really take that assessment, right? Like depending on the things that you go through in life and how life can change. And that's kind of what self-love is so important, like spending that time with yourself to figure out you. Because it's kind of hard to really, dive into the situations that most people dive into, like with life and communicating with other people when you're trying to tell them about yourself, but you don't know yourself. So I really wanted to talk about a little bit about how self-love looks from a man's point of view, and then how self-love looks from a woman's point of view, because obviously those things are a little different, right? Like they're a little different. So when it comes to self-love for women, yes, let's go there first. Okay, Nrgy. Okay, how would you classify what self-love looks like to you?
For me, self-love is putting myself first and understanding and being okay with that, not being selfish and not feeling guilty for putting myself first. Because if I don't take care of myself, I can't take care of anything else or anyone else, as well as if I do take care of myself first. And so whatever that looks like, doing fun activities, doing things that energize me, or doing things that allow me to just be in complete silence, where I'm totally relaxed, away from everything, disconnected from devices, disconnected from people, disconnected from the world, and, anything in between there. So that's my initial response.
Okay. Aphrodite, would you see that the same way?
Yes.
Self-love?
Yes.
Okay.
I see it the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my thing is there anything based on that definition that wouldn't be considered self-love, right? Like any, I guess, routines or activities that wouldn't be classified as self-love, right?
Well, I would say for me, to me, certain things for me is just not, I don't consider it self-love because I do it continuously, right?
Okay.
So it's not so much of me loving on myself, but when I do my self-love, my self-care, I set those intentionally for that time, that day, that whatever it is, that I know, today I did some very self-love type of stuff just for me, regardless. And for me, but getting my hair done, my nails done, to me, those are not my self-love type of things. I do that all the time.
Yeah.
But for other things, when I set out and do other things, I might set out and do a movie day just for me. You know what I'm saying? Or I might set out and do, she said, some different stuff that's just out of the norm for me. The disconnect, putting the phone down there, putting the devices down, and having just that real quiet time, with myself, and decompressing from everything else.
Yeah. Some good points there.
Yeah.
So, Manuel, how about you? Self-love, what you got about
For me, I guess for me as a male, I think when it comes to self-love, the biggest thing for me is just slowing down. As a male, personally, I'm running at 100,000% all the time. So I manually have to say, all right, man, let's take our foot off the gas and let's stop. Let's rest. Let's, stay home. Let's do something that's not just 100% all day. What that is not as important as the fact that I actually made the decision to stop running at 100%, whether it's working, whether it's partying, whether it's whatever it is. It's just, all right, stop, slow down, think, just kind of get a hold of things. And for me, that's what self-love looks like more than anything. Just slowing down and allowing myself to really look back and just kind of evaluate myself, my life, and just relax. I think that's the biggest thing I look for from a self-love standpoint. Pampering myself is definitely not a normal thing. So, a massage could definitely be that. I've gone and got pedicures, manicures. That's definitely self-love for me. Because that's not normal. That's me saying, all right, let's just take a day off the daily grind and let's relax. I still laugh when the nail tech rubs my feet. It tickles. That's how infrequent that happens. Like she grabs me my feet and I'm ready to laugh. So I still enjoy it because it's relaxing, but it's me stepping away from the daily grind. That's what I look at self-love like.
Yeah. Okay. I was trying hard to not to laugh. Since we said feet, I was trying to hold it in. Okay? Because you was making some real good point, okay? Oh, man, that's so funny. You left my touch your feet. All right.
Right.
Yeah.
I went back to that conversation too.
It's a paid service.
Oh, okay.
I'm going in with that expectation.
Okay.
It's a paid service.
Okay. All right. As long as it's a paid service, but they just go ahead and just get between the toes.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay.
Remember, infrequent. Infrequent self-love act.
Okay. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. All right. Yeah. You can admit it. There's nothing wrong with that, okay?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So something that occurred to me about self-love sometimes, especially from I guess a man's point of view, and sometimes women too, is whenever you do practice your version of self-love or self-care or any number of those things, that whole period where you actually just sit alone with yourself, I think people, they discount that. Like, they discount that part because that's, I guess that's the connectivity part where you connect, your heart, your head, your physical being, like you connect all of that together. Essentially trying to figure out like who you are, how you self-describe yourself, how that perception looks to others, all that other kind of stuff, right? So I think that doing that more in your self-care routine would definitely help you as how you relay your message and communicate to the world, to me, because I think that's it goes back to communication for me, right? Like sometimes when you talk about communication and communication being a skill, depending on the situation that you're in life and depending on who you're with in your life, it's certain things you may or may not communicate. Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of that has to do with your level of comfort within self, right? Like your level of how you feel to a certain degree. And a lot of that may come from that other person, but some of it just comes from, you in general. Like, how tapped in are you to yourself? Like, how comfortable are you with, again, being vulnerable, right? Like, I was just having that conversation earlier with somebody about that whole vulnerability, especially from a male's point of view. That is for some reason, I'm not saying for some reason, but it's the hardest thing sometimes to do, which is to open yourself up to someone else. Like, literally, like, open everything that you are up to someone else, and let a person see who you really are. And I think that a lot of that has to do with like how much time you spend with yourself, right? Like legitimate time, like really analyzing yourself. Like a lot of people, they discount that when it comes to like self-care.
Yeah. A lot of people discount it because they're not comfortable with it, with being alone, being in the presence of just themselves. That's uncomfortable and scary for a lot of people out here, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is. And that's why a lot of times I've known for like a lot of women to consistently like jump into different like relationship after relationship after relationship. I don't know about men, and the main thing they would say is because they're not comfortable being alone.
Yeah.
I would get the question like, Aphrodite, how you just be alone? I'm like, well, why wouldn't you be alone? You get to know yourself in your alone time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing about, being alone is sometimes you have to face yourself to a certain degree. Like you have to face those, that internal dialogue. Like you have to hear your voice. Like you really hear it when you're alone. More than when you with somebody where, yeah, you still hear your voice, but it's kind of muddy a little bit because you have to hear another person's voice at the same time. Like
there's a distraction there.
Yeah. There's a distraction there. But that's kind of why I guess this self-love topic is so important, because I think everybody's definition of what they would call self-love is different. And sometimes I think that the task or the chore or whatever a person picks and they classify it as self-love is really just a hobby or something. Like it's not like this is self-love. It's not like it's pushing you forward in a particular way, right? Like it may be teaching you something, but internally, what is it really like doing for you? Like how is it really pushing you forward? But I know some people don't ask themselves that question though when they pick certain things for self-love purposes. Like they don't really think about that. Whatever, Dad, you got that look on your face.
I'm just trying to understand. So what you're saying is the activity that they might pick doesn't per se push them forward as far as self-love.
Yeah.
Like, are you saying like an activity I pick as far as my self-love, it got to be something that's gonna push me forward?
It honestly, let me give you this example, right? So,
okay,
for some people, going to a particular gentleman's establishment may be their version of self-love. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is me time. This is like what they like to do or whatever case may be. So they might classify that as that part. That's what I mean by that may not be really pushing you forward. That might be emptying your bank account a little bit, but they might not be pushing that person forward. You know what I'm saying? But
I'm
you know what I'm saying? But like I said, if you're saying that, like, by going to the getting a massage or getting your hair done or things like that you said earlier, you said that that's not really your version of self-love. Like, that's not what you would classify as self-love.
It's not, because it's my daily. That's a routine. Like, that's routinely for me.
Yeah.
So I consider my self-love as things just out of the box type of stuff that I know. Like, I went and did this different type of yoga type of stuff. Like, I needed that self-love. I needed that hug on me, stretching type of stuff. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, but it's routine to go get my hair done. It's routine to go get my nails done. Like, to me, it's just not my self-love. It's self-care for myself, but it's not self-love.
Yeah. But that's kind of why I was trying to just like really talk about the difference there, because some people may consider that as self-love. You know what I'm saying? Like going to get your hair done and things of that nature.
Yes.
Like that's what
people do. Yeah. Some people do consider that. I just don't, because I am caring for myself, but that's on a daily routine to me. Yeah. Like I set intentions for my self-love caring time. My self-love time, I set very much intentions on what it's gonna look like for me. And it's like, it used to be a time like I wouldn't do nothing on a Friday. That was my self-love for me. Like on a Friday after 12 o'clock, I would shut everything down and love on me and do whatever that might have consisted of at that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's connectivity time. Like that's you tapping into yourself.
So, you know, if I want to go see some men, you know.
that would not be considered self-love.
And something I don't do on regular.
You try to go over to self-care now, like you try to get over here.
No, I was doing self-love because I was just trying to figure out what I really like. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
No, I'm just teasing. I'm just joking.
Over your word flipping. You're over your word flipping now. All right. Got it. Okay. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of why I was talking about that. I think it's important to really define like self-love, like what you know, tasks or what routines or what things really classify as self-love.
So I'll add to that. For me, self-love is like a lot of the inner work, so personal development, self-improvement, loving on yourself in that way, speaking highly of yourself or having positive thoughts about yourself, not thinking negative about yourself, not looking in the mirror and saying, you know, oh, I'm ugly or I'm unattractive, you know, for whatever, any of those things. Like for me, it's about personal development. And improving yourself. One of the things that we typically talk about on this channel, committing, right? Usually we're talking about making commitments to other people. But to me, self-love is also making commitments to yourself and keeping the commitment to yourself, you know, so therefore you can start building trust with yourself. You can then start improving your, being able to listen to and improving the strength of your instinct, your that other voice. So yeah, personal development, self-improvement, I would say are kind of in there, along with just how you talk about yourself, how you view yourself, making sure you're not comparing yourself to other people, things like that, accepting yourself. And then always wanting, you know, doing whatever you can to improve or develop or progress in whatever those areas within yourself that need work.
No, you're right. I think so too.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You agree with that?
I've been thinking about it. I don't know if I have a
clear... See the look on your face right now, okay?
Clear understanding. I don't know if I know exactly what self-love is. I get what Nrgy is saying. I don't know. I've been thinking about it. You know, I feel like self-love can not always be progressive, right? Because it's not it just depends on what the intent for it is, right? Is the intent to satisfy a feeling? Is the intent to give you a clear peace of mind? Is the intent to move you forward in life? all those things could be considered, self-love for someone. They're taking that time for themselves. And some of that stuff that could satisfy some of those things I noted, like your peace of mind or, emotional void, could be digressive, right? It could be negative, right? So I'm thinking about it from that standpoint as well, because I think when people normally do self-love things, it's not always progressive, but that's kind of goes along with what you were saying, Josh, right? Is there a clear definition for what self-love should look like? And I don't know if anyone can determine that except for the person.
Right.
But then we have to say, well, is this really love? Is this really love for yourself? Or is this lust for yourself? Or is this what you think is loving yourself? But then, I don't know what there's a clear lane for self-love. And that's kind of why I'm kind of just listening and thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what I'm thinking right now, though.
Yeah. It's interesting how I guess we're talking about self-love and how self-love is starting to sound like self-development a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like it's starting to blend just a little bit. Mm-hmm. When you talk about some of the things that, you can do for yourself, it sounds like self-improvement. Like you just doing small things to improve your well-being, the balance in your life and things like that. So this is the interesting part, right? Sometimes whenever you get with a person, right, and you start to get to know a person and you're forming this relationship with a person, why is it that sometimes when you hit that roadblock, right, with that person, that's when a person starts really questioning themselves, right? Like maybe it's something that they need to be better at, because I hear that a lot. Like sometimes whenever two people join lives or start relationships together, there's a battle, like there's a struggle within self to really figure out certain things about yourself, like something that you may be struggling with or something that may be holding you back, right? And vulnerability is a key component of that, right? Like when a person gets into a relationship with someone but still has vulnerability issues, right? That's something that they necessarily didn't practice beforehand. Like they didn't work on that beforehand. That's something that wasn't taught to them. Therefore, they didn't try to learn it. So once you get there, then it's like playing catch up to a certain degree. Like whatever self-love or self-care or whatever that you put in at that point is gonna be harder for you, because you're basically working against the curb at that point. Because a lot of times by that point, depending on the stage in life you're in, I'm not saying it's too late or anything like that, but it's just a harder battle to climb, right? So that's kind of why I was saying for my version of self-love and pretty much self-love, you have to actually practice certain things that you may not be like emotionally or physically good at. Like you have to do that stuff for yourself. Yeah, I'm thinking in my version, at least you have to, because you don't want to get to a point in your life where the test comes, because the test comes with everybody. Like you're going to get tested on that theory of how prepared you are, right? Like whether that you're not great at communication, whether you're not great at like socializing with people, like you may have social anxiety or something like that. Like there's going to be a time where that theory is going to get tested, right? But that's where self-love comes in, especially initially, where that's your point in time where you can practice all those things, right? Like you can pick up like maybe hobbies or something that can help you with that, or workshops that can probably help you with that kind of stuff, or whatever that may be. But I think that most people don't consider that, like that time between either relationships or even events, like that time between that where you can actually practice those things and be better prepared. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're talking self-improvement and development. Makes sense to me.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing like personal development. Is that what we're considering self-love to be?
Like that would be honestly my theory or my version of it, because like I said, self-love to me is bringing complete balance in your life, pretty much. Because everybody needs balance to a certain degree between work and kids, relationship, and all that other kind of stuff. That's where self-love comes in. Like that's your balancing point where you can have time for you can make time for others, you can make time for work and all that kind of stuff. Like that's why self-love, that's why they say that's important. Because you keep that identity, like who you are as a person, because you practice certain self-love things, right? So self-love, yes, it's supposed to make you happy. And then again, if you are improving, this is my version, if you are improving something in your life or improving yourself, why wouldn't that make you happy? You know what I'm saying? Like, why wouldn't that push you a little bit further down the road?
Yeah.
In my standpoint or whatever.
Yeah, I get it. And I agree. To kind of help answer, maybe be helpful in this conversation, Emmanuel, but then to also comment on one of the things that you said a little bit ago as well, I would say be very, try not to complicate it, because I know we're given an example before of, okay, well, is self-love constantly about progressing or improving? Because then if that's the case, then you could be doing it, a person could be doing it with like ill motives or ill intentions or whatever. But if you think of the term that we're talking about today, self-love, love is going to make sure that if it's self-love, we're speaking of things that are done in a healthy manner or done in order to improve a person in positive ways, not coming from a negative place. Yeah, we can bring up all kinds of different examples or playing devil's advocate and talking about, well, if a person is improving here or developing here or progressing here, then, how do we know that they're doing it for the right reasons? Well, the whole term self-love is letting you know that they're doing it in order to, be the best version of themselves, whatever that individual defines for themselves. What self-love for me may be a little bit different for you, may be different from Josh and Aphrodite as well. But I would say maybe to look at it as in the standpoint of, okay, if someone is loving themselves, they're wanting to get to a place to where they are, fully whole and complete and healthy, based off of who they are and what they need, as a human being that's walking this earth. And again, that may be different for most people. However, there's still, in my opinion, standard basics or foundations where, okay, you want to make sure that, health-wise, you're up to a certain part, you're operating, to a certain level or degree. Or when it comes to, again, critical self-talk, you want to make sure that you work on that to make to where when someone else tries to talk to you negatively or they may talk down to you, you're not going to let that come inside and plant a seed within yourself, because you've already spoken of like, no, I know my value, I know my worth, so things like that. I don't know if that helps or not, but I would say maybe not play devil's advocate, because the term self-love is all about doing something in a healthy way and not because of, you're trying to reach something that could be lustful or you're trying to reach something that, is not necessarily a positive thing. Maybe that will be helpful.
Different perspective. Nothing wrong with that. Adding to perspective. All good stuff.
But yeah, harmony, balance, harmony.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's what self-love is. Like getting myself to a place of where I'm like firing on all cylinders. To where I'm happy with self. I can look in the mirror and love myself, love who I'm looking at, love my reflection. I'm at a healthy place in my relationships, both personal and professional relationships. I'm healthy when it comes, I love where I am within my career, even if I'm not necessarily where I want to be, but I'm loving how I'm progressing. I'm loving the lessons that I'm learning. I'm loving, the journey itself. loving life. Self-love to me is getting to a point to where you see that life is worth living, and to where I'm not at a place of not wanting to be here anymore. So self-love is all about that harmony, that balance, blending everything together and everything just kind of running like what they call it, a well-oiled wheel or something like that. Well-oiled machine. Yeah.
So I think I think, and Emmanuel can correct me on this, it was what he's saying is, first of all, everybody have their own definition of what love look like for them. And I do understand what you're saying, Nrgy, when you say positive energy, positive energy, all that kind of stuff. But you also have to, as an individual, you have to know what look, because love don't look the same for everybody. Love looks so that self-love for you might look different for the girl next door. You understand? And so I think I don't think it was so much that he was trying to say the negative, but I think to me, he was just trying to say, like, it looks different for other people. Because what we know, or what we might consider like true self-love for us, that negative thing that we see as negative might be considered self-love for them. Do that make sense?
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
And in my statement, when I was responding, I specifically stated what may be self-love for me is going to be different for Emmanuel, it's going to be different from Josh, and different from Aphrodite. So I made sure to make that statement because that is true. And I was agreeing with that. So everything that you just said, I said the same thing. I agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah. My thing though is, right, like when it comes to like self-love, and I know we made this comparison before, is it easier or harder to do when you're single or when you're in a relationship?
Yeah, single.
Because we've made that comparison before.
We have. And it's single for me.
Emmanuel, we already know what you
I mean, I personally still don't have a clear definition of it. I know y'all have given perspectives.
Several different perspectives.
I don't have a clear enough definition on it to take a strong stance. I think it's kind of ambiguous at best. And yeah, it's hard for me. It's hard for me because I think it comes down to the individual. And someone could be self-loving themselves, going to the gentleman's club every weekend. And I feel
Josh.
They could.
Okay.
No, we don't know what kind of mental state they're in. We don't know. We don't know what's going on in their relationship. Maybe their wife is giving them the right kind of attention, the right kind of love, and they need that love.
They pay for that love.
Tell me it's love.
Hey, they might as well go watch the TV, man. Cause it's all a show, okay? It's all a show.
Watch the TV.
Go ahead, it's all a show.
Hey, they can go watch the TV.
But it ain't like the real thing, though. The real people in front, though.
Hey.
You know, right? So, like, my mind is thinking about all of these not so textbook ideas of what people truly need to balance themselves in life. And currently, I just haven't been able to sit on a solid definition that I can kind of run with, because I'm thinking about all these different instances where people are doing things that may not necessarily be deemed progressive or beneficial, but it is bringing them balance in their life. And it might not be the kind of balance that we look for them to have, but for them at their point in life, it's the balance they need to move forward with the next day. And that's where I'm at. That's kind of where my brain is. So depending on the perspective we take, that may be better done as a single. for sure. And then depending on the some other perspectives, it may be better done as with a partner by your side. But I think I think being a single is probably better for self-love. It is self-love, right? So the less influence, the better, because you want to make the decision for yourself. So I would say probably it is better to be a single, doing self-love, you know? Yeah.
Because your partner, in all honesty, like a lot of partners, and I've heard this a lot, especially in a couple of groups that I attend, is when the person themselves do a self-love, they really the partner has an issue with it. Sometimes the partner has an issue with it and say, oh, that's the only thing you care about, or, you know, you just being selfish. But that's what self-love is. I got to be selfish for my time right now. Like, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But to have all that comeback because I'm trying to see about me is you know what I'm saying, it could be very stressful for the person who trying to do their own self-love.
Yeah.
But when you're single, you ain't got to worry about all that.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Definitely better as a single.
Yes.
For self-love.
Yeah. So I was over here hitting this Google up real quick because, we having this topic thing right now. So self-love means having a high regard for your own well-being and happiness.
Yeah. That doesn't mean it has to be beneficial at all. Well-being would be beneficial, but happiness probably could not be. So it's both sides of the table. You can be very happy doing something that's very
very bad.
But well-being we kind of tie into Nrgy's perspective of progressiveness and wholeness, which is I see that, but we also think about happiness, and a lot of in many instances that can come at the hands of some non-productive activity that may not actually be setting you up
for success.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's what I think about is happiness. I immediately connotated self-love to personal happiness. And you guys helped open my mind to personal growth and development, which I believe that's important as well. But it seems like both are taken into consideration when we're looking at self-love. And maybe they should be considered together at its highest level, you know? But yeah, it's a tough topic for me.
I mean, it's a tough topic for a lot of people, to be fair. And that's kind of why we're just talking about it today, because I mean, everybody's interpretation of self-love is so different. It is. Like, what you would perceive as self-love may not be nothing what the other person might perceive, right? Like, I think that's kind of where we're landing on. Like, everybody has a different perspective of what self-love is. But I think that no matter what your version of self-love is, having a good idea of who you are, right? Like who you are, what makes you happy, what makes you sad, what makes you you. I think that should be a part of everybody's self-love.
Yeah,
because you have to know. I mean, those are basic things to be like, what makes you happy, what makes you sad, what makes you feel a certain kind of way. Like knowing those things, like really knowing those things, and not waiting till a situation comes up and you're like, man, why am I feeling this way? Like you literally asking yourself, why do you feel this way? Like that's a scary place to be in, to ask yourself why you feel that way when the situation's happening to you in that moment. Like think about that. Like it leads to so much anxiety. Like it leads to so many other problems, like depression, all this other kind of stuff. Like I just think that should just be in everybody's toolkit.
I think Nrgy got something good to say.
I think she do too, because her neck was rolling.
I hear that engine. That's a V8 engine over there.
It's all weird. You get up on there.
Okay, you're right.
Hit me in there.
Because I'm over here like, all right. Like, I get what you're saying. 100%. Again, I agree. What self-love may look like when people are actually doing it.
Yeah.
Yes, it can look different, for each person. But when it comes to like when you're saying, okay, well, like the happiness example, and well, one person's happiness could be very non-productive.
Oh.
But for me, because I'm thinking about, well, is it true happiness or is it true self-love? Then people who do those activities that aren't really healthy or productive for them, but yet in their mind, they think it's self-love, or in their mind, they're happy, at least in that moment. When you go to the root of the reason behind why they're doing these activities or their happiness in that moment, we can't consider it self-love. In my opinion, it can't be considered self-love because it's rooted in probably lack of appreciation, feeling unloved, regret, hatred, anger, feeling disrespected, so therefore they're doing these certain acts. In that moment, it's helping them feel like they're loving themselves or they're happy. But if you look at the root of it, it's truly not. So then therefore, in my opinion, we can't consider that as, oh, well, that's an act of self-love, because it's really not, because it's not. Yeah. Yeah.
What's the rest of it? Come on now. You was getting it. You was going good.
I get what she's saying.
I know, me too.
But
you get on my nerves.
you just never know. Like that act at that moment in time might have kept that person from doing X or doing Y. So like, though it isn't a long-term solution, at this point in their life, this is their version of self-love. And that could change. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that could change. But it's about the moment. Right? So you're going to evaluate and you're going to decide what's best for you at this point in your life. Right?
That's their now. That's their now. Their time. Their now. So they're in their now. So I know what you're saying, Nrgy, about it. But, it might take them 2 years to say, Dad, like this probably wasn't self-love, but this is a better self-love. But at that moment, at that time, at that now, for them, it was self-love.
And that's what they needed. That's what they needed. Right? I needed this. Okay. I needed that. Right. Yeah. Because
yes.
In the long term, it probably isn't the best idea.
Right.
And how many people, and the thing about it is very much transparency. I know I've been there. What I thought was self-love, was when I got a little mature, when I matured a little bit, growed up a little bit, kind of came to the sense. I was like, oh, that wasn't self-love, Aphrodite, So like being transparent is like part of, it's just the realness of it. Sometimes in that moment, that time, that now, they see that as self-love until whatever might trigger what they might consider true self-love.
Right.
And I do understand the root and all that, but sometimes it ain't even, you just on surface at that point. So they just need that surface love, whatever that is for them. Because they haven't dug deep enough to be in the deepness of the root of it. It's like, I'm right here and I got to meet while I'm right here. It's like, even when you talk to people and having conversations with people, you meet people, you don't meet them in the root or the deepness of them. You meet them where they at. Then you figure out, oh, this not going to work. So you move on, right? Or you figure, okay, we can get a little bit deeper and it's okay.
Right. So, but what both of y'all have said, you're confirming my point. The point that I'm saying is, even in that moment of what people may be considering self-love is technically not self-love. Yeah, that may be what they need to feel good in that moment, or to help them get through that situation, or just with where they are, whether it be emotional intellect or just intellect in general. That's their understanding of what they think is self-love. However, knowing what self-love is, again, Josh read the definition, well-being. These acts in this moment, in this phase of time of a person's life, are not what self-love is. So I understand as that person in the moment, at that time, at that phase in their life, that more immature stage or level or whatever, I totally get what y'all are saying, that for them, that's what they think, or that's all they know as being self-love. However, I'm saying, based off of what self-love is, well-being, that wasn't, and so I'm saying in this conversation today that there are certain things that qualify as self-love if we're talking about the well-being definition of self-love. And just because it's an act that a person is doing and in that moment they feel good, it doesn't qualify as what true self-love is. That's all I'm saying. So I completely understand what you both are saying, but I'm talking about, okay, pulling all of that out of it and then looking at it from the bird's eye view without getting muddy into it and looking at the details. Certain things just do not qualify as being self-love. Again, because self-love is about well-being. And if those acts are like you said, Aphrodite, using your example, in that moment of time, what you did or what you thought was self-love, 2 years later, a couple of years later, you looked at it as like, well, dang, that really wasn't it. I'm talking about, okay, the after fact. Like in that moment, you may not have been able to see it, but whatever the definition of self-love is, that wouldn't have qualified for it even in that moment 2 years prior. I don't think I'm explaining that right, but yeah, I get what y'all are saying.
No, you explained it right.
Okay,
You are.
Am I making sense?
Yeah, you making sense. You are. I was just thinking while you were describing that, I was trying to figure out when, it's almost like when did self-love turn into love for self, like your love for yourself, or self-worth, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, if you're practicing self-love, but you're doing things that may not show that you have love for yourself, right? Then is that really self-love, right? Like, is it? You know what I'm saying?
I feel like y'all are talking about personal development. Okay.
What
y'all are talking about is directly, exactly personal development. Okay. Self-love can tie into that, but I just like what y'all are literally talking about is personal development.
Hey, what we're really talking about is a going-good conversation. Okay, I love this conversation. That's what we're talking about.
I don't know. I think I latched onto the happiness side of it. It's about what makes someone happy. Personal development is not about what makes you happy. It's about what makes you better. And self-love is about what makes you happy as a person. And that was my. I like the wellness. I like the wellness side of it. I think the wellness should be considered, but I think the happiness is the hook on self-love that we can't ignore. And if it's not making you happy, it's probably not self-love. And though that can change with time, it should be making you happy. I don't know anyone that names some self-love activity or act that's literally not something that's making them happy. And that's probably the primary factor that most people are thinking about when it comes to self-love. Oh, this makes me happy. I enjoy this. I enjoy doing this. Not so much, oh, this is bringing my life together. Yes, that it may be doing that. But number one is, I enjoy doing this. This is making me happy. And then we start connecting, from there. So that's why I say it's just, it's tough. But I mean, I'm getting personal development vibes. Okay, I really am. Okay?
I understand because it's okay. So I had a scenario where you were saying that, right? Let me throw it to you, right? Let me throw it to you. Okay? So you said that it's related to happiness, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So a person could be doing this activity that makes them happy, and that could be like, again, visiting one of these gentlemen establishments. Right, so that could just be making them 100% happy, right? And they can just be like, "Oh, every time I go, I'm happy," and stuff like that. And what happens is 3-4 weeks down the line, the bank account might get a little low, right? And we can't go there as often, right?
Yeah.
Does that mean that your happiness decreases because you can't go there as often? Because that was connected to your happiness, which is visiting that nice establishment and getting that bottle service. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like that was connected to your happiness.
So it's not the establishment so much as what the person gets from the establishment, right? Okay, so if money is low,
just go and just sit there and just look like
it kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier when you said they might as well watch TV. Well, maybe they get a subscription to OnlyFans. Or that's $5 a month or whatever it is. Okay.
No, how you know? Don't try to throw that in there. He said, he tried to catch himself. He's like, that's $5 a month or whatever.
I like to be knowledgeable. I gotta get into don't worry, I'm getting it's about what they get from the establishment. That's what it's about.
Okay.
If they go broke and they don't have no money, they're gonna find another outlet where they can get a similar or close to desired result from what they were getting from that club. They are.
Yep.
Or that's when you start seeing people go into like depression or like other areas of like malnourishment because they're unfulfilled. But they're gonna try. They're gonna try to fill that void of self-love. What they deem that to be, in some way.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's not so much from the place. It's more about what they get from the place, the feeling, the satisfaction, whatever.
I mean, I was gonna throw this in there.
Go ahead.
What if they can't afford the cover charge? Some of those places got cover charges.
Well, that's when you go online. You go online.
I mean, well, there's a will, there's a way. Right?
I'm just saying.
Well, there's a will, there's a way.
Okay.
People find a way to whatever it is at that moment. That people find ways.
Oh yeah.
So we're not even gonna go there because it's just what it is.
Okay. Oh yeah. Don't worry, they drive a little Uber and Lyft for 2 hours. They gonna get the
what? Yes. Yes.
Gonna be friends.
What?
Stop the plate.
Yes.
I just made it.
That is so true.
Wow.
There's something to think about. I get both sides of the table. I really do.
Right.
I feel like we can't ignore the happiness.
Right.
That's important. Like people are normally happy when they're doing whatever that self-love looks like.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So on that note,
and it's what you thinking.
She got something to think about. You see that little head nodding?
Hey, you gonna say your piece? So I close the door. Okay, you
no. Them eyes getting low.
Because I be in deep thought. No, okay. The last thing that I was thinking of was
what you got.
Emmanuel, as you were describing, and I'm not picking on you, please know that. I like the dialogue here because it's really making me think as well. But when you were describing happiness, to me, like everything that you described it involved an act, like an external act that person was doing. However, when I was trying to do my best to describe self-love, it was more so an internal work. the thoughts that a person has for themselves. Again, making sure that they, look at themselves and they love the person that they see in the mirror. Or, again, whenever they're making commitments or creating plans or whatever, or setting goals, like they're committing and following through to those goals that they set for themselves. And a lot of that is just like inner work, as opposed to, having to go to this place. And now because I'm at this place, like me, I love baseball, softball. Okay, I'm going to this place of baseball or softball, watching this game, or either coaching or playing myself. And that does make me happy. But is that necessarily self-love based off the well-being definition? So for me, when it comes to well-being and happiness, I'm still thinking of it from a more internal space, because the external, just kind of the way that we've been talking about it and describing it, is more so like the self-care. Like me going to the baseball or softball field is like me, doing self-care. Because self-care isn't all just about spas and candles. Self-care can be other things too. So yeah, I just wanted to, that's what I was thinking in that moment.
Yeah, I agree. Because I am thinking external.
Yeah.
I think at the most basic level is external. I think at the higher level is internal, right? And you may be at that higher level where the basic external is not even like satisfying. It's more so that personal improvement, that personal care that really satisfies you, and that might make you happy. And there may be other people who can relate to that. And I don't know where I fall. I might be a hybrid. I enjoy both, but I think, the wellness is important. The well-being is important, but I still feel like the happiness is. But I get what you're saying. That's a good take when you think about external versus internal when it comes to that self-love. Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
I'm just a big advocate for tapping into yourself. I'm a big advocate of that. Okay? I'm a huge advocate of that. I am, okay?
Yeah, you should. I agree.
No matter what your version looks like internal, external, whatever that looks like, find time to tap in, right? To yourself. Like, just any point, tap in with yourself, okay? Because it's so important, like it is. I don't think people know how important it is until they need it. You know what I'm saying? Like, until they need that part of them. And then it's like, oh crap, I needed that. Like, I needed to tap into myself like a long time ago.
But I think, especially in the Black community, being able to tap in and having those conversations, we have to start, we really have to start instilling it in our younger our kids and our younger community about it, because I'm not sure, I know when I was growing up, my mama didn't say go take some self-love or some self-care, self-time out for yourself. You know what I'm saying? My parents didn't say that. It wasn't until they got older and they was like, oh, well, maybe you need to go take 5 minutes. And maybe it was because they didn't realize it until they got older. Who knows? I don't know. But I think it's something, we have to start instilling into our people at a younger age so they can know and understand what their self-love is. Because I know I started my kids off young, very young, letting them know, you got to take time for yourself. Because I have, 2 of my kids are very into other people. You come to them with a problem, they gonna try to solve it to the best of their whatever. And they not gonna take time to say, you know what, I need to step back and breathe for a minute and pull on me for a minute and pat on me for a minute. You know what I'm saying? And I understood that very young with them. So I had to really tell them and show them this is what I need for you to do. I understand that Sally need help, but you gotta do you. You gotta hold on you. You gotta love on you a little bit. And so, I think it just need to be done. We need to start instilling it in them early so they can know and understand, because I'm not sure about anybody else on here, but it wasn't instilled in me early.
Yeah. I don't think it was instilled. I don't think they handed it out at like school or church conferences or anything like that either. I don't think nobody knew that. Like nobody got that memo at all. Okay,
Right.
no. Like I think that's something that you picked up. A person would pick up over time, especially if you get yourself into a spot with a life situation or a person in general. Like then that's when you start to learn that you need that more. Like you need to take a little bit more time out for yourself. Like you learn it through life experience. Like something happened, boom, I need to do this more. Like, because nobody's actually saying it. Like nobody's actually just putting it out there like that you need this particular thing in your life.
Right.
You know. So that's why I think that this conversation was so important to actually have. Like I like having conversations that spark other conversations, you know?
Yes.
Mhm.
Good old dialogue. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sparks interest, you know? Whole water cooler talk and stuff, you know? Sit around, let's talk about this stuff, you know what I'm saying?
All right, this is like water cooler talk. We're gonna have our job too long.
Oh, man. Yeah, so here we go. Another episode of Adding Perspective with Josh. I'm Josh.
Make sure your tank is full before you can fill someone else's. I'm Coach Nrgy.
I'm Aphrodite.
And I'm Emmanuel.
And I wasn't sure where that was going. All right.